Hello everyone, this is Juan Bloisi here with Washington Interpreters. Today is July 29th, 2026, Wednesday. And if you're watching this video and you are an interpreter here in Washington State, you have most likely received an email that I sent out earlier today, breaking the news about how LNI has chosen the Universal Language Services Company to replace the SOSI company and provide interpreting services through their platform. In that email, I outlined my serious concerns about this selection. And so I want you to please go back to that email if you haven't read it entirely so you understand the context of this interview with Marisa Gillio. I would appreciate it very much if you do that before watching this interview. Thank you so much and enjoy the interview. Hello everyone, this is Juan Bloisi here with Washington Interpreters, and today I have a special guest that has decided to join us graciously for an interview. Our guest today is a nationally certified Spanish medical interpreter, entrepreneur, and language access innovator with more than 20 years of experience, who since 2010 has worked as a staff Spanish medical interpreter for the Yale New Haven Health System, providing language access in a wide range of clinical specialties and complex medical environments. She has dedicated her career to advancing equitable communication in healthcare and other critical settings. She's also the founder and CEO, of Language Link Corporation and the visionary behind InterpretingWorks language access ecosystem. So I want you to please welcome our guest today, Marisa Gillio. Thank you so much, Marisa, for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you, Juan, for having me here.
Yes, absolutely. This has been a long time coming, and I know that many of the interpreters watching this video may be asking themselves, what's going on? Didn't Juan hate Marisa? What's going on here? Well, I want you to know that we have been in communication for some time now, and we have come to an understanding as to how things worked in the past and how the InterpretingWorks company won the contract. And so as we continue with this relationship, we also found out that InterpretingWorks is bidding for the contract right now. And I took it upon myself to contact these companies mixed in the process right now. And Marisa was the first one gracious enough to grant us this interview. So this interview is going to serve as reviewing the past, how the InterpretingWorks platform works, and what can we expect if Marisa wins the contract. So I do have the first question for you, Marisa. Let's start from the past. How is it that Language Link first became involved with the Department of Labor and Industries here in Washington State?
We are always bidding for contracts. And in this case, we were very happy when we saw the posting because we have our own platform that was created for interpreters by interpreters. It has all the features and all the tools to protect our work, because really the language access providers are the interpreters. Something I never liked, being myself a national certified medical interpreter, that most of the time we were the ones who make less money, and when we are working in different contracts, and the people who was administrating the contracts were the ones who were making the bigger percentage of money. And not because they were bad, it's because the administration cost is so high that it was impossible for them to operate if they didn't charge that commission. That's when we decided to create the platform. And when this contract showed up in 2019, we decided to apply.
Okay, that makes sense. So essentially, with all your experience as an interpreter, somehow along the way, you decided to start a company to help interpreters. And that's great. So when you were in the conceptual phase of the company, and the algorithm that now you own through your software. What was the problem that the new platform was intended to solve? Your platform.
Well, like I explained, the first thing is the equitable distribution of work, between interpreters. That's one thing, because when you have favoritism over the other one, not everybody has the same opportunity to receive job offers. And that was one of our priorities. Also, interpreters have full control over their invoicing. That's why, I don't know if you guys remember, but in our process, you had to accept the invoice for us to submit that invoice to LNI or to the self-insurance. The job offers were posted by requesters. They were not posted by us. We were not have any control or any input inside of the job offers. And also, we knew when we started working on this contract, honestly, we didn't know it before, that there was this turmoil, this big problem in Washington, where there was this, uh, you can call clans, that they own clinics or they owned accounts, and they were not letting the independent interpreters, the other LAPs, to get jobs, to get good job offers, and be able to cover programs or long appointments. We learned this running when we were started to work at the contract. We didn't know when we won the contract. And we also didn't know there was going to be this battle between the unions, that were interested to represent the LNI interpreters. I know many of you, and Juan was one of them, that understood that we have a political relationship with WUPSI, or with members from WUPSI, and we are not. We were from Connecticut. Honestly, I don't know even who was the governor of Washington. Neither today, neither at that moment. Neither I know Connecticut governor at this point. I'm like more community oriented than politically oriented. I'm sure Juan knows more than me about politics. you know. But the thing is, we won. We worked a whole year with LNI, getting what was Chapter 14, that is the language access guidelines, no, for interpretation services for LNI, to be reflected on the platform. That means everything that the InterpretingWorks was doing, the platform, nothing was decided by us. Everything was decided by LNI. We are a tool, and we were a tool.
Well, thank you for that answer. And that brings me to a couple of questions when it comes to the functionality of the system. For example, when you had the contract, the LNI contract, how many appointments was the system handling?
We were handling around 600 appointments per day, with a fulfillment rate of 98.8%. And that was thanks to the GPS location that was never intended to control the interpreters, only to know their availabilities when they were doing the checkout. We knew that they were available and close to an appointment that maybe was rejected or was created in the last minute, because as an independent contractors, you had to have your high amount of hours to be able to support yourself and your family.
Yes, yes. No, I do remember how innovative your platform was to all of us, like digital signatures, geolocation, audit logs, compliance tracking, all of these things, the reporting tools. It was actually ahead of its time, and it's still ahead of its time considering what we have today. And of course, this is not an interview to talk about the SOSI company or any other company out there, but I can't help to compare these systems to your platform. Like, for example, right now we have an issue with the current company, SOSI, and their app. And we have shown in many videos before how they do not own the system. They're renting the system, and the pitfalls that result from that decision when L&I in their contract required the company winning the bid to own the software. So now we have this company. We have experienced multiple crashes, and it's just, total chaos. And the most important issue that concerns a lot of interpreters is how they cannot even accept appointments because we have, I don't know how many interpreters right now, but we have a good amount of interpreters using bots to game the system and to receive appointments, accept appointments before anyone could even take a look at an appointment. I remember with your platform, I would receive appointments via email or text, and I was able to accept those appointments right there. And I don't remember an issue with bots. What makes your system so efficient against bots that it would be a good fit for us again?
Well, the first thing is all these other systems work as a pit and with a time established to release appointments. When that happens, that they are a good deal for both because the variables that system manages, they are few and they are very clear. You can see them, It's a time and everything is posted at the same time. And it doesn't really filter on the availability, I don't know if you guys remember, but you could establish the mileage that you wanted to drive. It's my understanding that now you cannot do that. You could manage your availability in the system. You can say, depending on your certifications, of course, in your case, you have the SHS certification, all of you. But also, if you have an appointment that there was a conflict on the triple time, for example, between one appointment and the other one, you will not be able to drive and get to the other appointment. The system will not post it to that job offer to you. Also, our system has many algorithms that work managing all these filters. And the other one is the equitable distribution of jobs. For example, if you have 1 hour and I have 0 hours, the system will create a list with all the people that has 0 hours and all the ones who have 1 hour, and then it will make like a random list with that 0 hours and 1 hour, because it's not like by alphabetical order. Nothing is random, but that's impossible for a bot to know. The only way a bot will be able to work if it's inside the system. Right. We will know which variables the system is working for that particular job. Our system was allowing requesters to post during the whole day jobs, That's a reason for some of the systems that you have now, they have a limitation penalty for the users to log in as many times as they want.
Can you repeat that part again? Because why is it that those companies have a system that limits their use? Why is it?
Because if you put the bot is going to accept at 5 p.m., for example, if they're posting all the jobs at 5 p.m., is going to be logging in, is going to be accepting as many jobs as possible, and then you will be able to reject. In this system, what they did is they limited the amount of appointments that you can accept. In reality, they are limited.
I see.
The only way to be anti-bot is to have algorithms that will manage different variables that the bots will not able to say 1 + 1 is 2, like that, like something very mechanic. It has to be kind of a random offer.
I see. So basically what I'm getting out of this is what we want as interpreters for our sake is to have a system that could release a big load of appointments at a specific time, let's say 7 p.m. That works for us. But at the same time, if the company doesn't have an algorithm, if it's an inferior company that has, spreadsheets or maybe a human behind the distribution of appointments, then that system is going to be opened up to bots because they know exactly at what time these big appointments are going to be released, and it's going to be easier to game the system. But when some other company, they limit the users, is because they don't have an algorithm and they have a primitive system, right, that's not very advanced. So they have to limit the use of their users to combat the bots. That's what you're saying. So
Yes.
basically, your system, because I do remember this, you do have an algorithm, and maybe that's why we never had a problem with bots in the first place. Is your system improving? Let's say you win the contract. Is this going to be a reality?
Yes, of course. And everything under the direction of LNI, of course. LNI will be the one who will decide how the jobs will be posted, But us, as the experts on the platform, we will advise LNI to accept, how the equity, and also in the new bid, they were asking for algorithm that will do the equity distribution of job offers, because nobody is accepting for you. We are not assigning job like other systems that the current system does.
Right.
You know?
And that brings me to another point, and maybe you could shed some light on this. As you know, here in Washington State, we're not employees of the state, we're independent contractors. But yet we're limited by this current platform to see only appointments available to us depending on our address or where we are. We cannot see all appointments available throughout the state. And as you know, we don't have any mileage anymore. They removed the mileage by the time you took over the contract. And that's unfortunate, of course. But right now, if I see an appointment, if I'm able to see an appointment, let's say in Spokane, right? That's like 6 hours away from me. But I see a series of appointments of 8 hours and I'm able to accept them. And I want to spend the gas money because I see a benefit, an economic benefit in covering those appointments. I cannot do that right now because I'm not shown Spokane appointments. I'm only seeing appointments nearby my address. And to me, that's violating the independent contractor relationship that we have with LNI. When I called the SOSI company, when I contacted LNI, they were just telling me, the SOSI company, their system doesn't have that configuration to let me set my miles, the radius, right? So I could see jobs from everywhere. And I do remember that's something that was easily done within your system. I was able to configure and reset the mile radius to see appointments from far away. And when I didn't want to see appointments from far away, then I could reset it back. Is this something that's still available with your system?
Yes, we didn't go backwards with the interpreter's rights, because as an independent contractor, you are the one who decide where do you want to work and how do you want to work, and also, for example, if you leave it as unlimited, but you can drive 200 miles, when you accepted an assignment in 200 miles, the system also has another algorithm that it was reading that as you are available in that area. That means if you are accepting an appointment from 8 to 10, 100 miles from your house, the system from the same day was going to offer a consecutive one that was close to that one that is 100 miles from your house. That way you can fulfill your whole day. Something else that we have, you can accept appointments by email, by text, by WhatsApp, by the mobile app.
Wait a second. I don't remember you guys having WhatsApp before, but now it's integrated. Now we're going to have an option to accept appointments via WhatsApp?
Yes.
That's great. Can you talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah. On our mobile app, I don't know if you guys remember that we were a website app that you had to put in your home screen. Now we have a mobile app, and you can reject, you can accept appointments, of course. You can accept your invoices. You can check your invoices. Of course, like it's for your phone or your tablet. But the big information, when you had to change information in your profile, we prefer that you use the website because it's more clear for you. But then the rest of the things can be done on 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 your phone. And also, we are releasing soon an app for requesters. That means like this contract includes over the phone and video remote. Requesters are going to be able to request their own on demand by from their phones or their tablets. And it's not that you guys have to call like now, that you have to connect to the link that the provider will send. The platform is inside the system. Our system is the only system nationwide we call ecosystem that has all the modalities and everything inside the system. You don't need different logins. You use the same login.
Wait, that is huge because as it stands right now with this company, we have to have different platforms for different modalities. So, what you're telling me is that your system handles all modalities with only one login, one platform, all modalities.
Yes. The same thing for the requesters. It's our system is based on role, meaning your login is what establish your role. If you are an interpreter, if you are a requester, if you are the owner of the contract, if you are an approver, depending on the role, if you are on accounting from the company who's paying you, for example, everything is established by your login.
That's great news. That's great news. Well, thank you for shedding some light on those things and the functionality of your platform and what you can offer. Of course, we do not have a problem with anybody out of the state winning the contract. I remember when I was lobbying for LNI to choose a Washington state company, it's not that I was naive to the realities of an algorithm, a scheduling system. I just wanted somebody from the state to win it, to keep dollars within our state. But I also recognize the state is going to look for the best option for a company that's going to best provide the services they're looking for. But I do have a couple of more things that I would like you to clarify to interpreters in Washington state. I made a couple of videos recently talking about how the self-insured companies still owe money to Washington state interpreters. And I remember this problem. We always had this problem even before a scheduling system. Some of these self-insured companies would take months or maybe a year to pay a single bill. And back then we couldn't do anything. But right now we have a supposed union, the Washington Federation of State Employees representing interpreters. It's their duty to get interpreters paid. I initiated a lawsuit, you remember. Somebody dropped out of that lawsuit. We couldn't continue. WFC took over that lawsuit. But something interesting happened. I don't see the self-insured companies being, held accountable for their actions. What happened there?
Well, that's a good question. I ask myself the same thing because, as you well know, we don't pay. When we get paid, you guys get paid. We never all the money that is owed to the Washington interpreters is also owed to us. They didn't pay us the $7.50 for process. However, we keep working with the insurance. Some of you keep receiving checks from us because I promise that you guys are going to get free until the last cent if the case is open and allowed. But some of the self-insurance company, even they didn't answer at the point when we are on the contract. Of course, they are not answering now. But when Whoopsie sue us and Language and and LNI and the self-insurance, we were happy one way because they were going to help us to get insurance to realize what was happening. But it didn't happen. They decided, I don't know why, they decided to make us responsible together with LNI. Their reasoning behind or what we are understanding it is that they think LNI is responsible for it. The truth is LNI was supporting us as much as they could, but it's well known that self-insurance companies, some of them are unresponsive, and this is being reported by the Ombudsman, by LNI, since 2012. This is not new, that the self-insurance companies like our money. in their pocket. And what happened before, you guys didn't have a platform. It was that you guys were isolated. When it was 1,000, 4,000. But now, the good thing is, thanks at least from InterpretingWorks, I cannot talk about SOSI, is you guys know how much money each company is owing you. One big chunk of money that is not isolated cases, you know? I don't know what is going to happen. I cannot tell you. I don't know. But it was a surprise for me when Oopsie took them out because I thought Oopsie really understood that they're the responsible ones because we provided services, the interpreters and us, and we didn't deny services. The insured workers got the services that they need, and they complied with the laws and regulations, but we are not getting paid.
It is very surprising to me. You explained it perfectly. And I have tried, sometimes I do what's necessary and try to explain things in a simple way to interpreters. Take my time. I know sometimes my videos are long or emails, but I try to, illustrate with every single detail so that interpreters understand what's going on. And everybody knows, we have known for a long time that you as a platform do not pay us. You just a pass-through entity. You handle the payment, right? And so you have to get paid first. And to me, when the WFC, the Washington Federation of State Employees, decided to drop their complaint against a self-insurance company to take the self-insurance companies out of the lawsuit and then sue you, that's when I was like, okay, what's going on here? Because in reality, if I'm you and I have a company and somebody wants me to pay a debt that's not mine and I don't have the money, I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to file for bankruptcy and, I can't pay. I'll protect myself, but unfortunately, those interpreters are not going to get paid. And so you're not doing that, thank God, but at the same time, you have to defend yourself. And I don't know what's the thought process behind the union dropping the self-insured companies, suing you, and making LNI responsible for the self-insured companies. One more thing that I want to clarify. I do understand that self-insured companies operate under the supervision of the Department of Labor and Industries, but ultimately, those self-insured companies are responsible. They're liable to pay. And we're not going to get paid until they take it seriously. Unfortunately, we depend on the union because they represent interpreters, but they have thrown in the towel. They don't want to fight with the self-insured company. So I don't know what's going to happen. But at least I thank you for that, because one aspect of your time with LNI is they don't know the kind of things that you had to endure with LNI. And sometimes they didn't like you too much because I found out you were trying to help interpreters. Like, who was advocating for us to get our mileage back? Can you tell me that?
Well, I was, and also because if they were complaining because there was some assignments they couldn't get covered, and I told them this is very simple. If you pay mileage, interpreters are going to drive there. Also, it was my responsibility, my full responsibility, because I was the one who decided to put the SI next to the appointment when you guys were receiving the job offers, because part of our code of ethics said that it's our compensation. We need to know who is the person responsible for our payment. As an independent contractors, we have the right to accept the risk or not. Nobody can force us to work for free. If we want to volunteer, is one thing. But to force us to work for free because there is regulations that protect the insured workers, we have to provide services getting paid or not, I think that's against civil rights.
Yeah, we're getting the short end of the stick right here. And that's a very good explanation, what you just said about LNI forcing us to work for free. For example, as an independent contractor, I provide a service. It's called interpreter services. We're not employees. So, for example, if you need somebody to install tiles in your bathroom, you get a contractor. You hire a contractor, right, so to speak, and you say, I'm going to give you $1,000 when you're done. When that contractor is done with those tiles, you cannot tell the contractor, guess what? I'm going to pay you in 2 months when my husband gives me the money. You can't do that. You have to pay that contractor right there. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. But the state of Washington seems to think that the interpreters have to wait for them to approve a claim before we get paid for services we already provided. And we have to wait 60 days. And with self-insured companies, we don't even have the right to know what appointment we're accepting. So I thank you for adding the SI to those jobs before, so we know before accepting an appointment if it's an appointment that's going to get paid fast. I think, unfortunately, once again, I don't want to keep pounding on the union. I've done that in many videos. This is an interview with you. But they should be the ones fighting those working conditions. They should be the ones telling LNI, listen, you have the money, pay for these services, and then you figure out your claim allowance or authorization or whatnot. We need to be provided our services tomorrow. I interpret today, prepare the invoice, I need that money. And of course, we need to be reasonable. We have to give them time to process the bills, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, no more than that. But I think we're in this situation where we're not respected. I think in Washington, we have advanced a lot with interpreters' rights, but we're still a long way, in my opinion. I want you to know, if you're watching, many people are actors behind the scenes making decisions that we do not agree with, and we need stronger representation. I want to thank you, Marisa, for this interview. I know that interpreters were tired. As we know now, the SOSI company will be allowed to continue providing services until February. And LNI has not selected a new company yet. So I have a question for you. Let's say, you win the contract, right? They let you know in September, maybe the beginning of October, you won the contract. If that happens, are you willing to start providing services before February? Because the situation right now it's disastrous. It's bad. We have lost a lot of appointments. The system doesn't work. We have multiple crashes. We had the situation with ICE and the Immigration Customs. A lot of things going on. If LNI lets you, if they, allow you to start right away, could you help with the distribution of appointments?
Yes, we can start immediately. That's no problem. As soon as everybody is enrolled, we can start rolling out because we don't have to design anything new. It was from Whoopsie saying that LNI, no, they were saying that the interpreters didn't want us. That was the reason why they didn't choose us, because we were the finalists. There was 3 finalists. It was ULS, SOSI, and us. ULS was charging the same amount we were charging, and SOSI was charging the double, $14.50 against $7.50. Why they choose them? It's a big question.
It is a big question.
Maybe the Washingtonians were interested to find out.
Yes, absolutely. We need answers.
We put our heart and soul working on this. We were in the contract 3 years and a half.
It's crazy how things have come to pass. And all we want as interpreters is to be able to do our jobs and not have to deal with all these technical issues, be paid on time. But so much of that has to do with the company that the state selects to manage the interpretation services. And I think, they rushed into selecting this company. I think, we would have been better off had you won the contract. So I wish you luck. And whatever company wins, hopefully they have, if not a superior system, a similar system to yours. I think your system has become the standard for the distribution of appointments electronically. To end this interview, after everything you have experienced, what message do you have to Washington State interpreters?
That I never believed it was difficult to work with interpreters. Most of the interpreters in Washington, they're great interpreters. Doesn't matter who wins this contract, you have an important mission, okay? And I hope you get us or any other equivalent, but that will respect your rights. Because when you respect interpreters' rights, you are respecting injured workers' rights.
Exactly. Well, thank you again, Marisa, for
Good luck.
joining us. Thank you so
Okay.
much. No, good luck to you. And hopefully, I'm rooting for you. But of course, I know that there may be other companies that could do a good job as well. So I can't play favorites here. I just want what's best for the interpreters and the company that's going to deliver what we need. So we could move on and keep helping the injured workers that we love to help and have a better future here as interpreters. Thank you so much, Marisa. We wish you luck. And if you're open to, maybe we could have another interview, either when you win or lose, or whenever you want to update us with more developments. Thank you so much. God bless. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
You have heard Marisa. This was such a great interview. I'm so happy that she decided to join us, to give us this time. I believe, we need a company that's going to correct and rectify all of these mistakes and problems we have with the SOSI company. I mean, I don't have anything against them. They have tried, but it has been a total unsuccessful effort from their part to help interpreters in Washington State. It is a mess, and we need help as soon as possible. We're by ourselves here in Washington. We supposedly have this Washington Federation of State Employees Union, WFSE, supposed to help us and negotiate all changes to our working conditions. These changes to the platform are the first order of business for a union, because those changes affect our working conditions, how we get appointments, how we get paid, and those are not being addressed. The SOSI company and LNI are running unilaterally and making changes when we don't agree. We're not consulted, and this needs to stop. So the best company may win. If Marisa gets it, I would be happy, and hopefully, she'll even do a better job than what she did before. So thank you guys. God bless. I'll see you in the next one. Whether you are a DSHS or an LNI interpreter, you do have the right to opt out of the WFSE union and stop paying union dues. We must get rid of this horrible union. So go to optouttoday.com/WFSE1671 to do so and keep your hard-earned money. See you in the next one.